exercise your personal freedom, I realize you may not feel free, but everyone has personal freedom to some extent. But most of us don't use that freedom. Matter of fact, we jail ourselves by thinking too much about what other people think, what they expect of us, and what they think we should be doing or how we should be showing up. But it is possible to liberate yourself from that jail that you're putting yourself in, and to be authentic, totally authentic on your terms, no matter your circumstances. So no one can fully take away your personal freedom. Can they put you in a jail cell? Of course. But then you're just not free physically, right? But you can always feel free, or you always have the freedom, even in a jail cell, to choose how to think, how to behave, how to respond, how to show up, like who you're being. And even faced with the worst circumstances, you retain that important freedom. You know, you can, whenever I talk about this topic, I think about Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor. And what he said, and I'm going to read this quote, is everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way to be in the world. So even in that kind of dire situation, like being in a Holocaust camp, you can decide to be positive or negative, to be fearful or courageous, to be helpful or self-centered, to be solution or problem-oriented, to be hopeful or pessimistic. It's up to you. And if you take responsibility for yourself, then responsibility for who you're being, how you're showing up, all those things, you can actually change that level of freedom. You can change your circumstances and you can create the future. So consider your average everyday circumstances, your current life. I bet you realize that you have a lot of freedom to choose who to be: happy, sad, anxious, peaceful, loving, hateful, accepting, critical, all those things, right? You can choose those characteristics, those ways of being, those identities. And those are just a few examples of the identities that you can choose at any given time and in any circumstance. You can also choose to be someone concerned about what everybody else thinks, what they expect of you, and what they think you should do. Or you can choose to be someone who exercises their personal freedom to be who and what they choose and to live a life on their own terms. Now, in the past, I definitely curbed my authenticity to please others, to be loved, to be accepted, to feel safe, all those things that I'm sure you can relate to. But that didn't make me happy or fulfilled or successful or able to express myself or enjoy life fully. It really didn't. Instead, it caused me to hide my true self, my authentic self. And I remember cutting my bangs every time I'd go to see my mother, just so that she would accept me and not criticize me and say my bangs were too long. I did that till I was so old. Oh my God. I can recall avoiding conversations about spirituality and metaphysics with my audience, like here on social media or YouTube, and my clients, so that they wouldn't think I was weird and choose not to work with me or to buy my products and services. And I used to work really long and hard at a business I didn't ever really set out to create or really want, just because it gained me some love and acceptance from my husband. And I could share plenty more examples of how I didn't show up authentically and how I decided who to be and what to do based on what other people thought or wanted for me or expected of me, right? And nobody made me make those decisions. I chose to do them. I chose to make those decisions for all the wrong reasons. I decided other people's love and acceptance and approval were more critical than my authenticity. But when I realized that I could never be happy hiding my true nature or ignoring my soul's guidance, I made a new choice, and that was to be authentic and to stop worrying about what other people thought, what they expected, and what they believed I should be doing. I decided to be me, to do me. And that's when my life changed for the better. It really did. I still want to be loved and accepted, and approved of, and all those things. But I wouldn't choose at this point, I won't change actually, or hide who I am to make other people happy or to have those experiences. People either love and approve and accept me the way I am, or they don't. And if they don't, then either we can part ways, I can make that decision, or they can decide to change their perception of an attitude toward me, right? Okay, so if you don't feel free, how can you move towards feeling freer, feeling that you have that personal freedom? Okay, because again, you hold the key to your personal freedom. You're free to unlock the key, the cell, and let yourself out. At least when it comes to your mindset and habits and ways of seeing and being in the world. So if you want to be less concerned about what others think, what they expect of you, and what they believe you should do, then there's some internal work that you really need to do to get to that point of feeling like you are more personally free. So I have 5 ways for you to begin the personal journey to more personal freedom. And the first is to describe who you would be if you were unconcerned about what others thought, expected, or wanted of you. So how would you dress? How would you behave, speak, gesture, spend your time? What type of career or partner or car or home would you choose? And I don't want you to hold back when you think about this. I want you to imagine if anything were possible, who would you be? The second thing is to explore your fears about being authentically yourself. So, what might happen if you did you fully, if you showed up fully as yourself? Do you believe your friends and family wouldn't love you anymore? Do you think people would disapprove of your choices or criticize and judge you? Are you afraid you'll lose your job? Um, really dig deep to see what your fears are. What are you most afraid will happen if you show up 100% authentically? All right, then the third thing to do is to answer this question. If your fears were realized, like if your fears came true, what do you believe would happen? Would you be alone the rest of your life? Would you be not able to find someone willing to hire you and end up homeless? Um, would you be ostracized? I want you to explore all your fears and what you think the results of those, what would it be like if those fears came to pass? The fourth thing to do is to look for proof that your fears are real. So the question is, do you have any proof that your fears are real? So examine your life and the lives of those you perceive as authentic and how they show up in the world. Have you or they experienced the things you fear or not? Have they encountered negative ramifications due to their authenticity, or have you ever experienced negative ramifications from your authenticity? Basically, the question is, are your fears based in truth? Do you have data to prove that this is something you really need to fear? In most cases, you don't have proof, or you have proof that sometimes when you're authentic, the opposite happens than your fears. And the fifth question to ask is, if your fears came true, what would you do? Especially if your goal is to have personal freedom and to show up authentically. What would you do if your fears were realized? Would you remove the judgmental and critical people from your life? Would you return to being inauthentic? Doing what people expect of you and behaving as you've been told you should? Is that what you would do? Or would you choose to still do you, to be you authentically, despite the so-called negative impact of your authenticity? That choice is really important. So here's the thing. Authenticity is always worth the risk. Even if you experience your worst fears realized, you'll still probably feel much better showing up authentically than not. And as we like to say in the personal growth world, if you do it, if you become authentic, if you show up, not worried about what anybody else thinks or expects or thinks you should do, you're not going to die. You won't. You won't die. And in fact, you're going to likely thrive. So, the more authentic you are, the more you demonstrate who you are, and the more you allow yourself to feed your soul, to do the things that make you happy. Um, and so the higher the likelihood is that you will be happy and fulfilled and at peace and prosperous and healthy and all those things, because you'll be in alignment with your true self. So who would you be if you were unconcerned about what others think of you, expect of you, think you should do? How would you show up if you genuinely didn't care about others loving, accepting, and approving of you? If the main thing was for you to be authentic, to show up aligned with who you really are. So take a moment and just imagine yourself being authentic, living your soul aligned life. Imagine that for just a moment. Are you willing to wait another 12 months or 3 years to be that person and enjoy that life? I know I'm not. And what will you lose if you don't start being that person and living that life now? Where will you be in 5 years if you keep being a person who bends to the expectations, beliefs, and values of others rather than to your own? It's time to be yourself, is it not? It's time to choose to exercise your personal freedom despite what anyone thinks or expects, because the only opinion that really matters is your own. If you love and approve of and accept yourself, that makes the difference. And then you can exercise your personal freedom. So I would love to know if you are being authentic or if you're hiding who you really are. And if you're hiding, how long are you gonna jail yourself? How long are you going to remain jailed and not exercise your personal freedom and express who you are and live a life that's aligned with your authenticity, your authentic self, and your soul? Tell me in a comment. And if you need support on that, of course, you can always reach out to me. If you don't know, I am a certified high performance coach and an intuitive transformational coach. I like to say I'm a transformational catalyst, and I help people achieve more inspired results, which means I help them get from where they are to where they want to go without themselves being in the way. Right? So I help them feel personally free and to stand in their personal power so that they can make the choices and be the type of person who can get from where they are to where they want to go. They can achieve those inspired results, who can create what they want in their life. Because to me, that's the inspired result, when you're creating what you really desire from a place of authenticity. And it's my journey too. I'm learning how to live a life that feeds my soul and be authentic every day. And I share all of that in the Inspired Creator community. I pull back the curtain on my life and what I'm learning and what I know, and offer all of that to my Inspired Creator community members, my inspired creators. So if that's of interest to you, click on the link above, because that I offer inside the Inspired Creator community transformational coaching and certified high performance coaching and spiritual, metaphysical, esoteric trainings. And I combine personal and spiritual growth in the Inspired Creator community, because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And the way to achieve true transformation, lasting change, the way to achieve our full potential is to grow personally and spiritually, to grow as human beings and as spiritual beings, right? So we can't fulfill our spiritual potential if we are not fulfilling our human potential. The two go hand in hand. And so, again, if that's of interest to you, check out the Inspired Creator community. At the time that I am recording this video, in I guess it's mid-August 2023, the members of the Inspired Creator community are just about to start a series, a 6-month series and focus on personal freedom. It goes along with personal power. but it's about personal freedom. And so we'll be looking at that from both a human perspective, personal growth perspective, and a spiritual perspective. And, to me, this is one of the most important topics. If you don't feel free to be you, to do you, to create a life that feeds your soul, something needs to change. Something needs to change. And you know that. So I hope that you will click on the link above and join the Inspired Creator community for this next series of sessions based on personal freedom. Till I talk to you next time, go out there and achieve more inspired results.